Hello everybody, my name is Ryan McKinnon and I am the percussion curriculum specialist at Bandology, and today we will be starting a Get to Know the Percussion Section series where I'm going to talk about each individual percussion instrument, and we're going to go through some techniques and performance ideas, and how to do all those things on each of these different instruments. Cool. So today we are going to start with the snare drum. All right, so there's a couple things that we can talk about with the snare drum just to start off. Okay, first of all, you need to know that there are multiple different types of snare drums and different sizes of snare drums. Okay, so first of all, you can see this one's about a 5-inch in depth and 14-inch diameter. Another one that we have over here, this is considered to be a Piccolo snare drum, which means it's a lot smaller, as you can see in comparison to these. It's a lot smaller. I think it's about 3.5 inches in depth and then 14-inch diameter. There's going to be more bigger drums as well. We don't unfortunately have any in this room right now, but there's bigger drums. I think the main general one would be a 5-inch, just like this, and then you'd use them for various different reasons, depending on the sound that you're kind of looking for. If you're playing something really quiet, and something that is supposed to, you're not really supposed to hear a whole lot of, or it's supposed to just be accompaniment kind of thing, you'd probably more go for that. This is in a band environment. If you're playing something just general, basic, you can do a lot of different things with this snare drum. You can make it sound like it's really supposed to be quiet or really loud. So this is a good, just general one to use. And then the bigger one, obviously, that would be more for, something like a march. If a march were to happen in a piece or something, or you're playing a march in general, then I would suggest playing on the larger drums. In solo rep and stuff, there's multiple different reasons as to why you might use different drums as well. Again, marching, band stuff, you're probably going to end up going with a larger drum. You're playing rudimental stuff like Pratt, and some of that different categories of rep, you might also end up using a larger drum. If you're playing, deli clues or even Tompkins, I would go with this with Tompkins and deli clues. Some people will go with the pick. It's really up to your, what you feel like you want to hear and how it sound like. So those are just examples and some ideas to get you going with there. Okay, so next thing is we're going to talk about stand height and where this should be relative to you. So I always like to have it's typically around my belt buckle is where I would have it. There's a really good tip that my prof has taught me, that if you're unsure of where you think it should be settled, this goes for all instruments. This goes for mallets, all mallet instruments, snare drum, anything that you put on a stand, really. What you're going to do is you're going to close your eyes, you're going to stand still, you're going to close your eyes, and you're going to put both hands up as if you were going to play. And that is exactly where the drum should be. So if I go up to here like this, there you go, we're dead on. Okay. Great. So the next thing we're going to talk about is beating spots and playing off the drum. I'm also going to touch on this on a whole bunch of the other instrument stuff in those videos. So beating spot for the snare drum. Typically you're going to be playing right in the middle. Okay, for loud stuff, you might be playing just off the center, and that's okay. For quiet stuff, we want to be close to the rim, but not directly on the rim. We don't want to be too far to the rim, or else it sounds too woody. We don't want that sound. We want the full snare drum sound in there. Okay, so just probably about an inch off the rim is where you're going to play for quiets, and then you can, as you get louder, start getting closer to the middle of the drum. Good? Okay, when it comes to mutes, we'll talk about mutes for a quick second here. I have this, it's like a jersey fabric. It's a freer percussion mute. Some people like these, some people don't. A lot of people use moon gels. I would also use moon gels at times. There's different reasons as to why you'd use them. I feel that with the jersey, my ornaments, like drags, flams, ruffs, all that stuff, sound really good and really tight with this one on. However, definitely the roll sound lacks a little with the jersey on. Whereas if you were using a moon gel, it would be the opposite. And sometimes you can find a middle ground where they both sound good and stuff and whatever. But I tend to like this a little more. Cool. Okay, to start off with technique, we'll go over just how I hold my sticks. Now this is all really up to interpretation and what makes you feel comfortable and whatnot. This isn't like you have to do this or you're not going to be able to play kind of thing. This is a general, basis of ideas that have worked for me and that I've also been taught. But I'm more about, giving you different interpretations, and I don't want you to just set up and be like, okay, this is how I have to play. No. Okay, so just think about that a little. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna look, we got our fulcrum right in here. Okay, fulcrum right in here. I'm like in between this middle knuckle and this far knuckle on the index finger. That's where I like to hold it. This bottom of the stick is coming off just around this bone in my hand. And then I'm really loose. Okay, I'm very loose. And there's a lot of flopping going on. I can activate my fingers. I can stop activating my fingers and activate my wrist. I can activate my arm and my wrist. There's a lot of things going on here. If I'm, feel like I'm supposed to be playing quieter, I can start pinching a little more and play here. Okay? So that's the idea. We want to be really loose in both hands when we're playing. All of these instruments as percussionists are very loud already. We don't need to tighten up and be slamming to make them even louder. No, we want a nice sound. We want to be loose. We want to get, want to be as comfortable as possible so that we can play whatever it is we need to play whenever it's telling us to play that. Okay, cool. Talking about rolls. So we're going to talk about rolls. We're going to do the buzz roll first. So buzz roll, right now, sorry, just so you know, my snares aren't on, just to keep the clarity from you guys being able to hear what I'm doing. But for buzz rolls, when I'm playing, we'll talk about quiet rolls first. When I'm playing quiet rolls, I have a lot of pinching going on in here, in the middle there. So this muscle in the middle of your hand should be tightened up when you're pinching. And yeah, so when I'm down at the quiet part, it should be pinching. When I get louder, when I try to crescendo up, I'm pinching more. So the pressure goes even further up, okay? So you don't want to start off really tight, because then it's going to be dead. You want to be pinching definitely more than you're pinching if you're just playing strokes. And then when you get louder, you start to pinch more, okay? My fingers, what they're doing is basically the middle finger is keeping that from going anywhere. Okay, so that is really locked in there. Obviously, as I get louder, I'm going to start to widen my my grip a little bit so that the stick can move more. But these two are just kind of precautionary. Okay, they're just kind of sitting there to make sure nothing bad occurs. Okay, I'm not really engaging them a whole lot. They're still close to the stick. It's not like I have them way out here. You know, they're still close to the stick and ready to catch back on if they need to. Okay. When we're talking about buzz rolls, a lot of people do wrist rolls. As you can tell, that wasn't intentionally supposed to sound terrible, but it does. And the problem with that is we can't control that bounce enough when we're doing wrist strokes, when we're trying to do rolls. So what we do is we do arm strokes. So we try to keep our wrists locked, and we do arm strokes like so. Now your wrist can move a bit. Don't get me wrong. We don't want to keep this so locked that you're doing this. No, that's not the thing. Wrist can move a bit. That's okay, and the stick can still be moving within your hands. But we're not doing rolls like this. Okay, so this is the arm motion that we want. Now when we're going more quietly, there might be a little more wrist engaged, and that's okay. When we're going louder, that's all arm. Okay, something to work towards when you're playing loud rolls is the triple bounce. And now that I've been practicing this a bunch, I'm not intentionally doing this anymore. It just comes out that way. So loud rolls, something that really helps me is the fact that I'm triple bouncing, essentially, controlled. That's what I'm doing. That's all three. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then as you get more comfortable with that, you start moving them closer together, and then you have a roll. Okay, that's just something to work towards and something to keep in mind when you're doing those type of rolls. Okay, now for playing open rolls, again, this one is very much up to interpretation. This is how I play them. A lot of people might tell you different, and that's totally fine. When I do open rolls, I do doubles. And when I say doubles, I mean like I do a wrist stroke and then a finger stroke. Both hands. So that's how I do my open rolls, is I figure out that and then I go. That's how I do open rolls. It takes a while to get there. That's definitely a technique thing that you're going to have to learn. But that is the majority of that's the basis, I guess, of how I would do open rolls. Rudiments, when it comes to specifically rudiments like ornament rudiments, so that would be like drags, flams, rough. When I'm talking about doing a flam, a lot of people think you throw them at different times. So a flam obviously would sound like this, just so everyone knows. And everyone thinks that you throw the lower one faster, or first, I guess. But that's not the case, because if you throw it first, that's what we get. And it sounds like da-da, which is a rhythm. And that's not what a flam is. A flam is supposed to sound like that. Okay, so what we do is we set up one low and one high, and we drop them, basically both at the same time. Now for drags, which is essentially the same thing, but with 2 notes prior, is we do the same thing. We drop them both at the same time, but this time, just like in the buzz roll, we're putting some pressure in there to make the double come out quick. And then we get off as soon as we're done. Okay, the next one obviously is a rough. And with the rough, it's just 1 tap note in the right hand, and then the double from the drag in the left. And then you play a full stroke as the last note. So this hand technically is going. And this is just. The idea for all of these 3 things, depending on the type of music that you're playing, is that they're really tight and really together. And they sound like they're supposed to be on the beat. We don't want any of these things to sound like a pickup. Okay? So they should all be really tight and really gra, ra, ra. We don't want to sound like ra, ra, ra. No. Ra, ra. Okay? Really pointed. If you're playing rudimental stuff, they might be a little more open. Which means they might, they might start to become and sound like a pickup. We're still not thinking about them in that way. Okay? Okay, great, cool. Something just to put out there for all of you with snare drum, and with really any type of percussion instrument that you're going to be playing, stick control it's a book, and it's a free PDF online. You can go and search it up. Just search stick control PDF, and it will come up. That is your friend. 100% that is your friend. I use it every day still, and it's just stickings. You can choose tempos. You can bump the tempo every time you try. It's all it is different stickings. And you can do them loud, you can do them soft, you can do them middle range, you can do them with crescendos, decrescendos, whatever it is. You can add your own fling to it. It does not matter. But it is your friend. 100% it is your friend. I really have developed my left hand specifically from doing stick control. And it was severely lacking when I got to my undergrad. So I definitely would suggest you all try stick control. And that can go for everything. Like I said, stick control can help on the marimba, it can help on the xylophone, it can help on the Glock, it can help on the timpani, whatever. It's like the general basis of all percussion instruments. I'm serious, this book is great. Cool. Okay, so the next thing we have to talk about is sticks. There's a whole bunch of different types of sticks. I have many. Again, it really depends on what you're going for and what sound you think you want. If you're playing something extremely quiet, you might play with sticks that have really tiny beads at the top. Okay, if you're playing something that's general, you might just use, these. If you're playing like a rudimental piece, you might go for some beefier sticks that can bring out that sound in the drum, especially if you're using a bigger drum. That's perfect. Yeah. I mean, it really depends on what you want and what you've thought about, because you should be thinking about this prior and thinking about what is going to sound good and in the right context, what should be used. So yeah, I definitely would suggest getting some different types of sticks and stuff. And that also goes for mallets and whatever else. And you'll hear more about that when we talk about those videos. Okay, so great, thank you. This is our first video with the snare drum, and I'm gonna now play an excerpt for you.
Thanks for joining us. If you like what you heard, you can learn more about our organization at Bandology.ca, which features information about music education, advocacy and research, and our Play a Gig and Bandcamp programs. Follow us on social media for more videos, performance, and interviews on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.